Computer. Okay, we're recording now. So Malcolm, go ahead and pick up where you were left off.
Yeah, so my number one New Year's resolution is to continue what I've been doing with the program for last year. Do the same thing I did in January with intensity, and so last year my focus was butts and seats for the local event, and of course with New Year's kickoff coming up. My number one focus is to troll through my customers and associates and check in with people to see what their goals are and be able to if somebody has a big goal, obviously New Year's kickoffs would be worth their while. We're looking at 8 more days. And so that's one of my big focuses, is to load people into smaller events. Dave and I did a Zoom call today, and support the telephone events, and obviously get my invites out for the event the end of this month with Dave. But New Year's kickoff is my big focus right now. And if somebody's kicking the tires, then what I do is present to them what's going to happen, and paint a vision and engage other people on a 3-way call to paint a vision of what New Year's kickoff is going to be, and be able to. So that's what I'm visualizing right now, and of course that's the mechanics of what we're doing. And of course, Dave was going to talk about the mindset of what we're doing.
Yeah. So there's a few things that I jotted down. I think I'm just going to go through this book over the following weeks, and it's by Jim Rohn. I don't know if you can see that very well. The lighting just right. It's the 5 magic pieces to the life puzzle. And Jim Rohn just is a very powerful principle-based, trainer. So should I just go ahead and share a few things now, Malcolm, and then have you follow up with the technical skills of inviting people and effectively?
Yes.
Okay. So I started reading this book for myself, and I thought, you know what, Jim Rohn's so good that this would be great to take some notes for training and any training opportunities, which this is. So just looking over my notes here, I'm going to just hit some of them. Most of these are from the introduction. The introduction was pretty powerful. And the 5 major pieces that we'll be going through, and I'll hit a little bit on one tonight. The 5 major pieces are, let me just get to the index here, contents. Philosophy is number 1. Then chapter 2 is attitude. Number 3 is activity. Number 4 is results. And number 5 is lifestyle. So philosophy, attitude, activity, results, lifestyle. It sounds a lot like isogenics. Like, as I'm going through, I'm writing isogenics in the sidebars of the pages, where what he's talking about in creating the good life is what isogenics has really shaped up to become. And that's why I call it a divinely inspired company. I don't think any unhollowed hand could have had so many dynamics that are principle based and that touch every area of our life. I truly believe it was divinely inspired, and so did the founders, for that fact, for that matter. So Jim Rohn, the key to change, he says there's a couple things that will cause people to want to change. One is desperation, and the other one is inspiration. Either way, they both still can lead somebody to change, which is a good thing. I don't think there's a negative to either side of those. I was in a place of desperation when I was looking for something, and isogenics showed up. But it didn't show up until my philosophy changed and improved a little bit. Not changed, it evolved and improved. Let me say that again. Isogenics didn't show up in my life as a solution. until my philosophy evolved and improved. And some of you who know my story and seen the presentation, you saw that how I put that dream book together and how I started to think. I'll read one paragraph here. He says, how we use all of this information, and he talks about how we come to our own personal philosophy. And philosophy is your driving influence of how you look at the world and how you act, how you behave. It all comes from your personal philosophy. So he says how we use all of this information and the way in which we assemble the knowledge we have gathered forms our personal philosophy. The problem is that much of the information we have gathered has resulted in erroneous conclusions about life that can actually block the achievement of our goals. The only way to eliminate these mental barriers is to review, refine, and revise our personal philosophy. And so that's what I was undertaking to do as I started to develop that dream book. And then that dream book led to Isogenics, which created an environment for furthering my philosophy, refining it, revising it, and not having to say, okay, everything that I know in the first, at that point, it would have been 36 years of my life. That's it. I got it all. I got it all correct because I went to church. You know, I'm a devoted Christian. I got it all. That would be a pretty egotistical way of looking at things. So I'm not that way. And I realized that I needed to do some revising. And so I was open to that revision because, you know, in my own personal efforts and all the things that I've accomplished, there's no way that I had it all. I had some good foundational starts, but no way did I have it all. He says the greatest influence on what we decide to do with tomorrow's opportunities, listen to this, is not going to be circumstance, but rather what and how we think. What we think and the conclusions we reach regarding life's challenges will be the sum total of what we have learned until now. So let me just say that again. The greatest influence on what we decide to do with tomorrow's opportunities is not going to be circumstances. And if you really think about that, that's how most people govern their lives, based on circumstances. They let the circumstances dictate, and what happens, what I mean by dictate is they react to them. And then by reacting, they're letting the circumstance be in control, and based on the circumstance, they react to the circumstance rather than taking charge in life and acting on life. The circumstances is acting on us. And so we just keep reacting. In that case, what happens is the same thing over and over. Even if we switch to something else that changes our circumstances, the way we react to the circumstances in that something else, they just keep happening over and over and over because we keep letting the circumstances dictate our decisions. And so he says, what will be the biggest influence on taking advantage of the fullest advantage of the opportunities that tomorrow will bring is going to be on what and how we think. So I do have to read this paragraph because it's very telling of what we're letting control us right now and what we think is our philosophy. He says the learning process plays a major role in determining our personal philosophy. Over the years, we have all managed to gather up considerable knowledge. We cannot live without the information that surrounds us making an impact on how we think. The human mind is continuously taking pictures and recording the sights and sounds around us. Every experience is etched into the neurons of the brain. Every word, every song, every television program, every conversation, and every book has made an electrical or chemical imprint on our mental computers. Each emotion, each thought, each activity in which we have been engaged has created a new circuit in the brain, which is linked to all of the other circuits that already existed. All that has touched our lives has been indelibly recorded, and all that we now are is the result of an accumulation of input which is intricately connected by a delicate combination of chemical and electrical impulses stored in the 3-pound brain. All that has ever happened in and around us is now this uniqueness we call self, the individual human being. And when he said 3-pound brain, I thought of a little computer chip that will hold like 45 megabytes or whatever it is, or gigs, whatever, and it doesn't even weigh an ounce. And how much information is stored in that little, computer chip that you can insert into a camera and record things onto. Our brain weighs 3 pounds, and the way all of that is stored and put in there as information, it was just a little aha for me. But all of these things that are really not of our making have gone into our brains and helped to create our philosophy. And we think we know it all, and we think we got it all right. Until we intentionally understand what's happening and we start inputting that information in a way that's congruent and consistent, and it has a goal attached with it. I was just kind of floundering around like everybody else was, like a fish out of water, and not really making much of an impact in the world, here and there, but not consistently, and definitely not compounding. So that all started to happen as I started to do what Jim Rohn is going to lead us into here. So as I was reading through this, one of the things that he talked about is, and another note that I had was, don't attempt to master everything in life. Instead, why not go after a few among the many? Because you'll never be able to master everything. It's an impossibility. So why not pick a few? The few that will make the most difference, the subjects that will have the greatest impact in determining the quality of your existence. Why not pick those? And that's why I love Isagenix. The more we focus on that, the more we're able to do that, because that's what Isagenix supports. It supports self-mastery, and in self-mastery, you're also going to be an influence and an impact on other people. It's automatic. They're, I would say, immutably connected to each other. So as you look around your world for answers, always be in search of a few things that make the most difference. And for me, health was the biggest one, along with the personal development program, and then having a compensation plan attached to that. You can build a pretty amazing life when you have health, personal development, and a compensation plan attached to all of that. What 3 things that he mentioned here: your thoughts and ideas, that's one, they influence our habits. Our thoughts and our ideas, information that we put together, they influence our habits. Our habits become our behavior, which is the beginning of the results that we have in life. So if we have a kind of a messed up, erroneous philosophy, then imagine what our results are in life, right? And people who have been working on a consistent philosophy, a powerful philosophy, but yet don't quite understand all this, they'll have some things right, and there will be some wins in their life. But to have that consistency where you're making everything possible, that's going to come from somebody who's critically thinking along the right lines. So we need to improve our philosophy so that we can improve the way we bring about our thoughts and our ideas. I'm not saying that we have erroneous ideas and thoughts, like I want to bring heaven to earth. I always wanted to do that. But back when I didn't know how to align everything, I was doing a poor job at bringing heaven to earth, so bad that I was praying for God to take my life. I had had enough at 36 years old, right? So it's the philosophy that guides and influences our habits. That's what we've got to work on. You probably have some pretty amazing ideas of what you would like to do with your life as you align with God. So it's the philosophy that is going to help facilitate that and precipitate that and bring it about. So, and then that will start to change our behavior. What we want is a behavior change. And thinking is a behavior. So he says, if we trace all this back, it's not going to be the circumstances that you're trying to force. It's going to be how we think and what we think. And anybody that knows me long enough knows that that's what my podcast is all about. So I'll finish with this and then toss it over to you, Malcolm. Here's a little bit more from the book, and then I'm going to add my thoughts on this. Our philosophy is formed from virtually unlimited resources. And as an adult, all new information that comes our way is examined and filtered through our personal philosophy. The concepts that seem to agree with the conclusions we have already reached are added to our storehouse of knowledge and serve to reinforce our current thinking. Those ideas that seem to contradict our beliefs are usually quickly rejected. And there's some information that I now know that have improved my philosophy so dramatically to allow me to be a greater instrument in God's behalf and allow me to be in harmony with that I would have rejected quickly prior to, getting to the point where I got to where I was open to it. So the challenge and this is my thoughts, so the challenge for these that are wanting to reach a new level in life, a new level in isogenics, have to realize something very important. All the knowledge, insight, conclusions that you have stored and arranged in your brain right now is only going to get you so far in isogenics. If I had to guess how long it would take to reach that limit, like to be stuck at a certain amount of cycles, I would say that could probably happen within a few months of getting into isogenics. If there needs to be a lot of refinement going on in the philosophy, you'll get stuck pretty quick. I would say within 2 to 4 months, maybe 6. It could take longer depending on how good your philosophy is. Now, if you were consistent every week, 10 to 15 hours a week, so it's not you not doing the work, but it's your philosophy that's rather keeping you stuck. I would say if you're putting in 10 to 15 hours a week, consistently every week, in 3 to 4 months, you'll find that stuck spot. I would guess 3 or 4 months. If you're still enrolling and expanding your business, that's not being stuck. Your current programming knows enough to keep you moving forward until you do reach that place where you become stuck. So stuck would be cycles hit a flat line. You just can't get your cycles to move past, right? That could either be you're not doing the work anymore, you're not putting in the minimum 10 to 15 hours a week talking to new people, but that would go back to philosophy, wouldn't it? Because your philosophy is getting to where you're not going out and doing the work. So, but if you do have a philosophy that it's already been worked on and is refined to a bigger extent than to somebody who hasn't, it could take years until it could take a year, it could take a number of years until you get to that place that's stuck. Because building an organization takes time, and you may have enough of the correct philosophy to build a big organization, so it's just going to take time. The ones who don't get stuck are those that are on a continual personal growth program of some kind. They don't see a finish line in the personal development program. So they actually thrive around a healthy mind and body. They love those kinds of programs. And therefore, that type of person who's on that journey continuously never hits the stuck. If they do, it's just because they're slacking off on the work. So just keep learning, keep applying and growing. So Healthy Mind and Body is designed to mentor the individual through that growth and development process that he's saying, our philosophy, working on our philosophy. Healthy Mind and Body is very powerful in doing that. We're also going to do it with the book here. So we'll be hitting it from two ends. If you're doing Healthy Mind and Body, we'll also be doing it here. But Rod Harrison's great at helping people to expand their philosophy. Does that make sense, Malcolm?
It does. And so as far as philosophy goes, what Jim Rohn started out with was be open to revision.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is have the humility to be teachable. Right? That's the beginning.
Yeah.
And then the way, what that looks like to me practically is that I started out with affirmations this morning. And basically, they're similar affirmations to what I've been doing for a couple of years now. And I believe that they're the affirmations that attracted you into my life, Dave. And of course, I keep doing them because it works. Basically, I got that from Bob Samara, and he has a phenomenal track record mentoring top earners in different companies. has probably a greater track record than anybody I know. And so the first affirmation I started out with was, my energy attracts new and excited people to my business. And lo and behold, when I turn on my computer, it's Robert Cornish's 70th birthday. And immediately I felt this urgency to call Robert Cornish. And within 10 minutes, I had him on a Zoom call with Dave. And within 7 hours, I went over to his house and got him started on the isogenesis and the shake. And basically what I'm doing with the affirmations is laying out to my subconscious mind what is going to happen today, and I'm doing it anew. And my subconscious mind doesn't decide one way or the other. It just doesn't like to change. And when I repeat these affirmations over and over again, eventually my subconscious mind is just like a puppy dog. It decides, okay, you're the boss, but you have to repeat it. It doesn't happen with the first command. And so by doing that, Dave and I had early success this morning with a very, very capable guy and his wife. They're both very interested. And but I created that situation by doing affirmations last thing before I went to bed last night and first thing this morning. Before the sun came up, the first thing I did was reach for my affirmations and go through them. And so that's the practical side of what that looks like. And then, so I start and finish my day with personal growth. I've got a reading nook with a really good light, and all my personal development books there, especially the gratitude book. I've got my gratitude journal. I've got my recovery journal. And that's just part of my what Jeff Roberti, the top earner in the company I came from, calls the hour of power. And my experience is that my hour of power has probably, like yours, Dave, it's morphed into a couple of hours sometimes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. By the time you do the workout and all the reading and personal development, hour of power can easily become 3, can't it?
Easily.
Yeah. And it used to be when I was less successful, I thought, well, gosh, that's a waste of time. I had to just jump on my email, right? I had to just jump on my email and start calling people. I can't be screwing around with personal development. Right. And what was happening was, I was ignoring the fact that there's a huge spiritual component of this business. And what happened was, the urgency that I felt about Robert Cornish came from what I like to call the Holy Spirit, because not only did Robert describe a medical challenge that he was having, but when I got over to his house, he described a much bigger medical challenge. And so the urgency I felt when I first talked to him ramped up dramatically when I was in his house and met his wife, and they started talking to me about what's been going on with them medically. And I realized all of this is happening for a reason. His mind is focused on, because not too long ago, he was in the hospital and he had to change his state. He was feeling sorry for himself, and he realized that he had better start visualizing something different and start to be grateful. And his turning point in his medical journey was when he began to express gratitude for that he was alive and that he had competent nurses, and that he had capable doctors, and suddenly his situation began to turn around through the power of gratitude. And then of course, he gets home, and he's only been home for a few days, and suddenly Malcom calls him out of the blue with incredible solutions, and solutions that he's actually been praying about. When I mentioned telomeres, he said, "Okay, Malcom, you had me at hello. I'm very familiar with telomeres." Well, all this is not a coincidence. This is all part of the spiritual realm that Jim Rohn talks about, where because I'm starting my day with my energy attracts new and excited people to my business, I send out a message to the universe, and suddenly people begin to appear just like that.
Yeah. Well, let me read what he says here in conclusion of this first part of the philosophy. It just aligns perfectly with what you just said. All of our counterproductive beliefs and choices are the results of years of accumulating misinformation. We have simply been around the wrong sources and gathered up the wrong data. The decisions we are making are not wrong based on the information we have. It is the information we have that is causing us to make wrong decisions. Unfortunately, these wrong decisions are leading us further away from rather than closer toward the achievement of our goals. And that would have been a hard pill for me to swallow growing up, being a churchgoer and learning a lot of my philosophy that I felt was the core from my religious institution. But that's not the case. There's so many other places we pick things up that get stored in. The magazines, the TV, the music, the friends that are not your friends, and teachers, and all kinds of places that we're putting stuff together erroneously with no streamlined reason for it all coming together to one point. And I love what somebody posted here, I think it might be Enoch, about circumstances and not letting them. He says, circumstances should not be allowed to shape the man. We should seize upon circumstances as instruments by which to work. We are to master them. Malcom just talked about a process that you start every morning for mastering those circumstances. I wrote down, there is a huge spiritual component to this business. The spiritual is the realm of cause. The circumstances are effect. You caused that to happen with that gentleman today by the way you set up your morning. You co-created with God that circumstance.
And you helped because it's your intention to teach people about their health and teach them things that they do not know, and so here Robert has had this health catastrophe, or a series of them, and his mind is open, and plus he's been very intentional about not getting into the pity party mode. He's been very intentional about being grateful for what he has and confident that good things are coming. And then suddenly Malcom and Dave show up, just like that.
Malcom, you do it over and over again. I've watched you do it over and over again. Whatever you're intentional on, it happens. Getting somebody to celebration, it happened 2 days before the event. You're just very intentional. Right. Somebody's coming to celebration. I know I'm bringing somebody else. Not everybody's that's going is yet showed up to 2 days before the celebration. Your intentions are very strong because you set up that intention within you by doing the work in the morning, your hour of power.
Right.
And that's what I learned.
And then taking the action.
That's what I learned. And that's what's God's waiting for you to do your part so he can do his part. He doesn't do it the other way around. It's freedom of choice.
And he does all the heavy lifting.
It's also the opportunity to learn and grow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that this is awesome. Anybody have any comments besides whoever posted that one? I mean, if that person has a comment and wants to speak up, please do. I love that, what you wrote down and quoted there.
Well, this quote is such a powerful quote for me because it used to be like, I used to let circumstances shape me. I used to be like, yeah, I'm having this problem. Like, these people are not wanting to cooperate, or today is just really not working out. Like, people are just being sad, or people are not answering my phone calls. I don't like phone calls. Why do I have to do this? Things like that, that you sometimes we speak to ourselves. And then one day it's like, okay, I read this quote and I was like, I cannot let circumstances shape me because I'm always going to be miserable. Times when I'm like, oh, I wish I had more support or something. It's like, wait a minute, I can create support. I can share my goals. If I want somebody to help me with my goals, I cannot just sit here complaining that my goals are not being accomplished. I can make those circumstances a blessing. I can shape them. And the more I learn how to do this, like, that's when a person can really unlock their infinite potential, because you're not being just kind of like pushed down by things that are happening around you, but anything that's happening, it's like, I know my goals, and that's when I'm going to go forward. Like, these obstacles, these circumstances are going to become stepping stones. And there's this quote from Henry Ford that he said that obstacles are those frightful things that we see when we take our eyes off of our goal.
That's right.
And it's like, yeah, we cannot take our eyes off of our goal. We need to move forward. And even if it's an obstacle, that's okay. That's the best place for opportunity and for growth.
I love it, Christina. That is so awesome. I have a quote on my wall right here in the vinyl lettering. All of the joys and appetites are located in the imagination. If we keep our imagination focused on the objective, we have power. If we concentrate on the obstacle, we have discouragement. In one case, we have motive and ambition. In the other, despair. We get to decide what we're going to focus on, don't we? And that's what you're coming to realize. So don't focus on the person that doesn't want to answer your phone call. You're focused on the objective, so you keep making calls, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good job. Thanks for putting that quote up there, too. I really like that. I'm going to copy and paste it in my notes. Okay, Malcolm. So, Malcolm, I mean, your intentions in doing this with getting people to New Year's kickoff, getting them to the event, getting them to the Reno meeting. I mean, because of the work that you put into and your intention and your skills that you've developed around inviting people to where they say yes, you had the biggest meeting while you weren't even there in Reno. You were out skiing this last time around, and that was momentum that was built up from you consistently getting people in the seats. And what we know is going to come from that is there are going to be people who catch the vision. So they'll start carrying the momentum with the people they know. And that's because of the diligence and the intention that Malcolm's put into this. So, and one other thing I want to say too, Malcolm, as you're sharing these skills, we'll listen with filters. Our philosophy will say, no, it's not that. No, it's not that. That's not what I need to do. Oh, no, it's not that. I definitely don't need to do that. I don't see how that would even work for me. Right? That's what people will say when somebody's successful gives them the ingredients for creating success in this industry. You got to be careful. Watch your own philosophy and how it'll listen with filters and discount the things that Malcolm or anybody else is going to say. And
right.
What I just said.
Yeah. Powerful. Well, and again, that's your subconscious mind, that's resistant to change and wanting to edit things out because it doesn't want to feel uncomfortable.
That's right. And you've got to overpower that with the affirmations, right?
Well, exactly. And so the few days before this is really my first full work day. And the few days before the work day, I'm feeling the deception phase fairly strongly and wondering, gosh, am I going to be able to go to work on Tuesday? And so I just have to confidently expect because I'm going to get that resistance. I'm going to feel that resistance, the deception phase. And the stronger the resistance I feel, the more amazing things are going to happen. And of course, my first call right out of the gate, something amazing happens, and a person who's been waiting for the information that we've got suddenly appears. And that's why the deception phase was so strong the few days before I got started today.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
On the other side of that deception is amazing when you
right
through it.
And the more intense the deception is, the more difficult it seems, the better the thing that's on the other side.
Yeah.
When they say no pain, no gain, and this is spiritual and emotional pain. It's not physical pain. It's spiritual and emotional pain.
And you've been around
and of course, Ron Hairston.
That's part of the program, right? That's part of the program.
Right. I know that's part of the program. And I know that to get to the transformation phase, and of course the transformation that we're going to experience is this phenomenal information that Robert has as a coach, and the knowledge that he'll bring to us.
This guy was amazing. I was very impressed with Robert. I mean, this guy's at the top of the pyramid, man. This guy's he's no slouch.
He is. Right. Yeah. And you and he both have that love of racing, Mm-hmm. That's really cool. That's no coincidence, and here's a guy, he's talking about, I mean, the reason he's interested in telomeres is because he wants to live to be 150 years old.
Mm.
That's remarkable.
I mean, how could you have kept him away, right?
No, you just couldn't. But it's this whole spiritual component, and of course the subconscious is not comfortable with that, so that's why the deception phase is really so important.
Well, it's important to have a mastermind group like this too, where we all work together and we support each other through those moments.
Exactly. Yeah, it's incredible. We're so blessed, aren't we?
Yeah. There's somebody that texted me this morning. Eva, she's starting the Healthy Mind and Body, and she's at that point where she needs somebody to be an accountability coach and somebody who believes in her,
Mm-hmm.
And I know she could accomplish this. Belief is something you need until you know something. I know she can do this, right? I know she can do it.
Yeah.
So we support
exactly.
her to do it.
Right. And so she's dealing with her own deception phase, right? And by reaching out, you're not feeling the deception she's feeling.
No.
So you're in a position to encourage her, to say, yes, I know you can do this. I'm seeing you as this physically, emotionally, mentally different person. I'm seeing you that way.
Yeah.
I'm seeing you as your best self.
That's exactly what I said.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's going to impact other people's lives and move them forward.
It will. Yeah. And then of course, once that happens, then she is empowered to share you with other people. You see?
Yeah.
That's the powerful thing. And it's very difficult for somebody to say no to two people. When she connects you with somebody else, where she says, Dave made such a difference in my life. That's what I told Robert. I told him the same story. I said, I was introduced to this guy, Dave MacArthur, by Cindy Talley. And what made me realize I had to meet him was the way she said, Dave MacArthur, like, Martin Luther King, and then suddenly he wants to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm setting the stage for that. And that comes through intention. It's my intention to get him on the phone with you.
We can see the asset he will be for Isogenics, for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
So with New Year's
kickoff, spiritual connection.
What's kind of the mindset we want to have, and we'll finish up with this, and getting new people to come to New Year's kickoff, and then how should we look at this going into New Year's kickoff? You've been around this industry for a long time, a lot of years. How do we set ourselves up for success here?
I like to look at the website. I like to, if they've got look at the videos, look at the personalities, and bring. Obviously, I want to bring you in on the conversation with somebody about New Year's kickoff, because I'm describing something I have not been to, right? I know what celebration was like and how transformational that was. So I can use that energy to promote New Year's kickoff. But once I get somebody to the point where they're saying, well, it might be a possibility, I'd have to work some stuff out. That's the time when I need to say, okay, I've got to connect you with Dave MacArthur, because we've got to figure out your ticket, and we have to figure out accommodation and work through some of these problems together. And they're not problems; they're just challenges that present themselves. And of course, once we overcome them, then the fruit of New Year's kickoff becomes all that much sweeter, because we had to work for it and make things happen.
I would recommend downloading this app. It's called Isogenics Events. I don't know if you know. And this is inside the app. It has the schedule. It has everything in there. Who's training? Also, for the tour, you want to make sure you get into that tour for the building. It's going to be, you have to register. You can start registering on Wednesday. They only have so many tours that go over. Once the buses are filled, you cannot drive over. So It starts on Wednesday. I think it's at 3 p.m. to start registering for the tour. You can't register for the tour until after you got registered for the event. So it's on site. You can't go register for the tours right now. They're going to fill up pretty fast, you guys. So
we want to put that in our calendars, maybe with an alarm, so that if we're in Phoenix, we get an alarm, that tells us a couple of hours in advance, hey, get your New Year's kickoff or your tour tickets.
Yeah.
It's 3:00, and just the act of setting that alarm and putting that in your calendar tells your subconscious mind, I'm not playing games here. I'm not playing around. This is really going to happen. And, just planning out every single stage of the event. And that also builds it in my mind. So it makes it much easier. It increases my excitement because I'm planning the trip, and so it becomes easier for me to talk to other people and say, hey, I've got my ticket for the tour, and I can call somebody I know is going and say, hey, we're going to have to get these tour tickets. And by the way, who do you know in Phoenix? Because I've got 10 people. I've made a list of 10 people I know in Phoenix, and I'm contacting every one of them and keeping track of what they say. If they tell me, hey, it's a possibility, then I have a calendar that tells me to call them back and begin tracking that person.
See if they can.
Yeah. Right. And then when I call it an associate and say, hey, I just want to remind you to get your tour ticket. And by the way, have you got some people in Phoenix that might like to join us on the tour? Dave thinks he can get extra people in. If you've got somebody that's not even in the company and isn't even registered, we've got a way to get them on the bus. But we got to give Dave lots of notice, because he has to notify Travis, and we begin building these scenarios, and that's how you get people excited. They're rehearsing the whole thing in their mind, and that's how you build excitement, so that by the time they get there, oh man,
yeah,
good things.
And you're starting to imagine the possibilities and when they're going to happen, right?
So, right. What would it be like to have, 10 people there?
Yeah.
Maybe I can have 10 people. Who knows? Yeah. If I got all 10 on with Dave, I bet I could. Well, what if you just get 3? Okay, that's 3 more you didn't have. It's good.
Yeah, if you scroll down in the ISA Team M2M Facebook group down to December 21st, you'll see where I posted the information on that. And I'll just give these 2 times out, and then you can go read the rest. On Wednesday, you can start to register for the tour at 3 p.m. And then on Thursday, they're going to have that opened up to register again at 7:30 a.m. And the tours will happen on that Thursday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So, like I said, get over there as soon as you can. If you're there on Wednesday, then there's no reason not to go and go pick the time that you want to go, the time slot, and get your name on there. And then 7:30 in the morning on Thursday to make sure you get in there before, if that's the soonest you can get in, you can get in 7:30 in the morning on Thursday to see what's left. All right? Anything else we want to go over, Malcolm?
I think that's got us started. I'm so grateful to be back in the saddle. It feels so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed my vacation was great. I mean, it was great to get away, and man, I skied all of the great ski areas in the country of Canada. I didn't miss anyone. All of them. Every single one.
We saw a lot of it.
And now Lucy's got me all excited about Japan. She's going to Japan in March, and I guess the snow is unbelievable in Japan this year. So, wow. And I've got one of my passes has passes to 14 Japanese ski resorts. So.
The world skier.
But
I love it.
I got to do my 90-day. This is my 90-day push.
Yeah.
This is how our business changes. Eric Worre was the one that identified this. Every single company that he made a fortune with, all of his major income growth came from 90-day pushes.
Yeah.
Where he was focused intensely on generating momentum only for 90 days. He didn't just, go for ages and ages, month after month after month, just 90 days. And that's what we're in right now, guys. That's what I'm in right now. 90-day push.
And I'm in it with you, with all of you. All right. Anybody else have a comment? Anything you guys want to bring up?
Thank you. I really enjoyed this call. That was neat.
Good energy, wasn't it? Good spirit.
Yeah. I liked it too. I didn't know that's what it was going to be, but I'm happy I came. Laura.
Hey, Laura. Okay, guys, we'll get it posted into the Facebook group so you can get other people to it. And I'll have it up there probably by late tonight or first thing in the morning. Okay, have a good one. We'll see you guys.
Okay, guys.
Bye.